A housewife? A stay-home mom? How old are you? In your 20s? Those are the reactions that I got when I told people that I am now a housewife, I am a stay-home mom. When I made the decision, I was faced with mixed reactions from parents, strangers, friends, family. I mean, everyone was confused. How did I go from having a law degree, being a lawyer, moving to PR and communication, moving to being a host of a TV show, and then all of a sudden I make the decision to stay at home? Well, this is not an overnight decision, and if you're interested in making such a decision, or you're wondering if the decision you made is worth it, I'm going to be telling you a bit of my journey, plus giving you some few tips here and there on how to make the decision and what factors should actually drive you to make the decision. And if you're still wondering whether it's worth it, absolutely it is. My name is Joy Kezia Musisi, aka the Pretty Brainy Wife. If you love content around motherhood, wifehood, generally homemaking, I am the person for you. You can follow me on my social media platforms down in the description box. We can connect, get to have a chit chat here and there. Also, this is my channel. You're welcome. You can subscribe and we'll surely have a home. So my journey into being a stay-home mom, a housewife, began in 2018, shortly after I got married. The very primary reason why I became a housewife before I became a stay-home mom was because at that time I was struggling to conceive and my mind was really not in the right place. So I decided to take a break and be at home. And then in the process of being at home, I actually got pregnant. So now I transitioned from being a housewife to a stay-home mom. I graduated in 2018 and I got married in the same year. But prior to that, in 2017, I was working. I got a job doing public relations and communication, and it was a wonderful job. I loved it. Actually, by my third year of doing law school, I had realized I didn't think I wanted to be so much of a lawyer anymore. I was more into communication. I loved, having to speak to people, having to convince people, having to, influence people into a particular lifestyle or something. So I realized that arguing over facts was not for me. I think I was more best in, being more spontaneous and not going by the rules. So I went and asked for a job in PR. It was my very first time doing public relations. I had never studied it, never done it before, and I was winging it. I was actually doing it right. And then towards the end of 2017, I got a recommendation from a friend. A friend recommended me to a TV station that was looking for a TV host, a morning show host, and I went to do the screen test. Voila, first time I made it. I hosted the morning show alongside doing PR for a couple of months until I finally decided to be a housewife. You may ask, why did you leave the corporate world? Why did you transition from making all those boss moves and, settling down into being at home, washing dishes, cleaning pans, and breastfeeding babies? Very interesting question. And many people have asked me that same question. I had a tough time actually convincing my dad in particular because he did not see the point. He did not see the point at all. And for him, he didn't even want me to do like the whole TV stuff and anything like that. He wanted me to be like a stellar lawyer. Actually, in his eyes, he saw like the Chief Justice. That was what he said. And I don't blame him because every parent has like their dreams for their children. And sometimes that is where our premillennial parents go wrong because, well, you cannot bulldoze or plow your child into a particular direction because it suits your ego or makes you feel good. Anyway, first and foremost, the decision to become a housewife, stay-home mom was something that we discussed when we were dating. So number one is you must have a kind of conversation with your partner before you actually settle down and get married or have kids. That was a conversation we had during courtship. We talked about so many things, how many kids to have, how to raise the kids, the values that we want for them. And some of the things that came up were, if one parent has to sacrifice their career for the children, who does it have to be? And the answer was actually definitely clear because it had to be me. We had talked about finances and how the financial aspects of our home would run. And my husband said he's very comfortable being a sole provider because, well, he was like, men must provide. It is natural. So he was comfortable being a sole provider to the point that even when we got married and I was still working, I never provided a cent in our home. It was really up to me if I wanted to, but it was not like I was mandated to maybe pay some bills, maybe pay water bills or electricity bills or anything like that. So because I was not mandated to, it became easy to transition into not having, a salary or something to contribute to the home because I didn't have that responsibility. My husband was at a very tough and busy job then. It was crazy. It was the kind of job where I would also see him like twice a week. And so we thought about all these things, said, okay, now when we have kids, what's going to happen? On top of that, being that I would wake up at 4 in the morning and leave home and then come back at 10 at night, we didn't have time to talk much. Each of us would come back really exhausted and tired. Then we'd have to just, cook meals and sleep. And worse still, it was when I was having the pressure to conceive. So our relationship became extremely strained during that period. So the truth is that must be a conversation that you must have, because being a stay-home mom or a housewife encompasses so many things about homemaking that you must have at this or that. If this happened, what would it be? If that happened, what would it be? And I am glad that I made that decision earlier, because right now that we're in a long distance marriage, if I had a full-time job, I really wonder how things would have been at the moment. I know that some people wing it, but the truth is we don't have the same values and we don't have the same, stands about certain particular aspects of life. Number 2 was the financial aspect. Now, it was more economical for me to be at home. I'll tell you why. When I was still working, my husband would still pay all my bills. He would fuel my car, he would give me money for lunch, and he would still provide for the home. It made it easier for us to make certain decisions. For instance, we had the decision that when my daughter makes about 4 months, we're going to put her in daycare, and maybe I would go back into TV or PR. Now, the thing is, when she made 3 months, we got a lockdown, Corona. So daycare was out of the picture. But now the decision was easy to make because I was already at home. And if she had to go to daycare, then my husband would still have to pay for her to go to daycare, well, because financial provision was or is his domain. It is his responsibility in our home. So it is more economical for me to be at home than go to work. So you should look at the financial aspect, the financial implication, and who of you in the relationship has a responsibility to do what. So number 3 is, what are your parenting goals? What parenting styles are you going to use? Very many times when people have kids, they just literally wing it. They either follow what they saw growing up, or they just, make decisions for their kids, wing it. But my husband and I, when we were dating, had discussed that we wanted to be intentional parents. We wanted to have a plan. What was our plan? How are we going to raise our kids? What parenting styles were we going to use? Some of the things that came up in the conversation was we did not want strangers in our home to raise our kids for us, i.e. we were never going to have house helps. Yeah, and all these years down the road, we have not had a house help. We were not going to have strangers at home because their values, you're picking an adult from wherever and you're trying to impose your home values on them. It wasn't going to work for us. Number 2 was, sometimes these strangers that we have in our homes tend to, and it's really innocent, but they tend to be negative. They tend to say mean things to our kids. They tend to mistreat our kids. They tend to molest them. So all those were things that every time we would think about, they'll just make our minds quail. We're like, no. That is not what we want for our kids. That is not what we want for them. And so we decided that I would be the one that raises the kids, at least 80% of the time. And our parenting styles also were the kind of parenting styles which we don't think a stranger would have managed. These are parenting styles that you can easily find a school that can do it, but it's not so easy for you to incorporate that into a stranger. For instance, one of the things that we find natural to us is not to beat our kids. let our kids explore and learn on their own, to let them adventure. That is a kind of parenting that in the technical terms would be called Montessori parenting. We can find a Montessori school, but we may not be able to find a human being and push them into our kind of parenting module. So our parenting styles and what the values that we wanted for our kids were really a big factor in determining whether I got to parent the kids hands-on or I got to be a career mom. Then another thing that was very important to us, which I think you should also consider, is your time frame in being a stay-home mom. Being a stay-home mom is not a permanent thing, because there's a point where your kids jump from the vulnerable stage and grow into adults. You're not going to remain a stay-home mom while your kids are adults. So you must have a time frame. And for us, we came up with a time frame of, okay, so if we want between 3 and 4 kids, those are going to be 8 years of me being at home. So the importance of having a time frame is that it enables you to still go on with your career at home, or completely change to something different in the meantime. The hack is, if you ever feel like you want to get back into the working space, the career space, you ever feel like you want to get back into employment, never ever leave a gap in your CV. If you're an architect, use that time to, do interior designing. Like, do something connected to your career that you can do from home. If you're maybe a banker or you're a financial controller somewhere or something like that, use that time to start a business. Maybe you are good at communication, PR, or anything like that. Use that time to influence for social media, do YouTube. The opportunities are countless. You can actually, if you're a lawyer, you can help witness agreements. You can, there are plenty of opportunities that you can have while you're at home, so that your CV does not really have a gap. Many people mistake and think, okay, when you're a stay-home mom, all you're going to be doing is flip through channels and watch soaps, wash dishes, iron clothes, lay beds, breastfeed kids. No, honey, there's a big world out there despite being a stay-home mom. So if you have to consider making this decision, it must have a time frame, and during which time frame you must be able to find yourself, first of all, and secondly, do things related to your career or something that you want to do in the future, so that you're not completely idle and useless. Then for me, another thing that I found really pertinent, and I don't know for other people, was because I was changing career. The fact that I was changing career, the decision was not hard for me to make. I was changing career from being a lawyer into being a communicator, into TV, into public relations, and that is something that I still really want to do on an academic level. So because I was changing into that, it was easy for me to make the decision. I didn't have to go to do the back course, just had to be at home, keep doing things that are related to what I want to do much later after my stay-home mom phase is gone. And that is why I am here on YouTube. That is why I am on Instagram. That is why we are discussing issues every day and every time on our Instagram lives, on Facebook. You just have to put yourself, like I said, in a position where you are still being completely career-wise useful when you're at home. So aside from that, if you need to make the decision, you have to consider your home budget and live within your means. If, for instance, your home budget is, maybe at home we spend 1.5 million a month, then make sure that you're living within those means, because the truth is, you will not truly be happy and fulfilled if you're struggling. You'll never, fully feel satisfied about parenting your kids if you're struggling financially. And you're like, oh, if I had a job, I would have done this. If I had a job, I would have done that. So those are things that you should discuss with your partner. It doesn't mean that to become a stay-home mom, you must be on top notch rich, or you must have a lot of money. But the secret is really living within your means, and also as a couple understanding each other, discussing and cutting out your responsibilities and sticking to your end of the bargain. Because the truth is, if I am doing my job at home and I'm being useful and the finances are not coming in the way I expect them to come in, I will feel frustrated. So every partner has to keep to their end of the bargain. So it needs complete understanding and communication. Well, this has been my time here, and if you'd like to ask any more questions about being a stay-home mom and anything that's related to motherhood, raising children, being a wife, balancing all those things, homemaking, I am the person for you. Like I said, in my social media platforms, please subscribe to this channel. I'll answer all your questions, your comments. You know, I'm the person for you, like I said. And I'll be seeing you next time in my next video. Bye.